And we're live!
Hello and welcome to another live demonstration. Today I want to show you graphite powder. Now, graphite powder is often used as a lubricant in locks and gears to make things run smoothly, but it's a great drawing tool. Now, I know a lot of artists will sharpen a pencil, so they take a 2B pencil and shave the leads in order to get a powder. So you can choose your grade of graphite powder. This is great. I mean, if it works, absolutely fine. Graphite powder's the same principle, but it's pure. When you sharpen your pencils, you've still got the graphite and whatever binder is used in the core. With graphite powder, it is pure fine graphite, which makes a really superbly fine graphite. So when I mean fine, I mean it's like dust. So how do I use it? This is what I want to show you in a short demonstration in a minute, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to get everywhere, so bear with me. I'm just going to show you, so graphite powder. Using this as an artist chamois, how smooth you can apply. And what you do is you apply it, and that was very little, because I've not used a lot out of this bottle, and I've done plenty of drawings with it. So you tone, get your values, and you can go softer and gentler. And so you can build up really nice subtle tones. You can also take it back really easily using an eraser. Or, if you feel inclined, you can, I'm going to put some in here because I'm going to use it later anyway. Tap. You can see the dust coming out because it is really fine. And I'll put some in here. So you need a bit of a clean. Whoops, great, perfect. So you can also, like with any graphite, you can just add some water to create your work that way. So that's pretty much what graphite powder is. It's pure graphite. So I've challenged myself with this demonstration to only use pure graphite, because you can use a pencil. So you can put your layers on with the powder and then finish off your detail with pencil, or use charcoal, which will give you that really black, because graphite still has a very grey shine to it and can't always get the black that you may find you get better with charcoal. So I'm going to do a little portrait of Josh. So thank you to Jess for letting me have this portrait. And he's looking out of a window, but luckily in the photograph there's some really good light and dark, so pretty much it's done the light and dark tones for me. So I've got a colour photograph, and I've also printed that colour photograph in black and white. Just that really helps me, because I'm working with just one tone, to see the lights and darks, see my lightest lights and darkest darks. So it is useful, and it's good when you're working from a photograph to be able to print it off in black and white and just be able to help yourself. So for this, I'm going to first apply one tone, and it's just going to cover, and you'll see that first you're not overly bothered where you put your powder, because this is your mid-tone. From here, you'll then work on your lights and your darks. Now, ideally, working this way, I should work that way in order to stop the messiness and leaning on the paper. That's great in an ideal world, or if you're a really organised person. I'm not, so I will tend to move around and I will tend to lean on the paper, but I will show you what I do to help prevent mostly me getting dirty rather than the paper, because I can fix any smudges. So you can see here, I'm just making sure I'm picking up the little grains of graphite, and I'm just applying all over the paper. So it's pretty simple, really. I'm not worrying about darks and lights at the moment. I'm just giving myself a mid-tone to work from. There we go, simple as that. So from the photograph, I know these areas are a little darker, so I just want to add another layer. So with this graphite powder, the key is working in layers. And here I want to just make it a little less even, and you'll see how that works later. So you can see how dirty I'm getting, but this is all part of the fun of using graphite powder. Or chalk, or any medium like this. If you want to keep yourself clean, use a pencil. But I love, so this is second end, you can see it is just slightly darker. Just making sure I push it in. And this time I'm going to just be a little bit more careful about where I apply it, because I want to keep that mid-tone and just make sure I can distinguish between darker and lighter areas. I'm not worried about overly where it's put. I can sort all that out in a minute. So what I could do is I could blow that, which I will often do, or use a dusting brush or an artist brush, or I'm just using the brush on the end of this eraser. And normally I don't let people use an eraser, but for this type of work it's an essential tool. The reason I won't let people use an eraser is because I think it takes you back, but on this occasion you actually need to go backwards in order to go forwards. So I'm using it as a tool, not just an erasing apparatus. So for me, that's got a nice tones on, and you can see it wasn't hard to do. So I'm going to now just look and bring out, this is a nice little eraser, and I'll use lots of different erasers for different reasons, just to start to bring out the highlights. And I'll move and swap, change around as I just plot out and decide where the light is hitting. And the great thing about this eraser is I can just brush off any of the debris. Across his eye here. And I'm going to, like I have said, I am challenging myself just to only use the graphite powder, whereas on other occasions I possibly would use a bit of pencil or a darker pencil, a 9B or an 8B, just to bring out some really dark areas. But you'll see how you can get quite an effective piece of work by just doing. For me, it's very subtle, and that's not my normal type of work, but I do like to change and challenge myself. And you can see there how that's starting to bring out the face, and how effective with just a few touches it works. Right. I'm just looking at the lightest areas on his hand, his cheek. So using the eraser, bringing out highlights. I can go in again, I can revisit and relook. Okay. Now I'm just at the moment plotting where his lovely curls are on his head. And I will swap to another eraser right at the end, just to really bring out some of the stronger highlights, because I will have leaned on this by then. And for me, it's what you leave out. Again, in the coloured photograph, you see a lot more than you do in the black and white. And I sometimes find drawing is about what you leave out, not just what you put in. So you can see, indicating he's got lovely curls and where the hair is hitting and the lights. But I'm not over worried about this side. This side I'll probably go even darker in a minute. So let's have a quick look at where I am. Now what I'm going to do is use a blender or a stump to put some darker in. That's why I've put some of this graphite powder into a little, this is a tinting saucer. I'm just picking up the edge, and now I can start to work on slightly darker areas. Great thing about graphite is you can put in an area you don't like it, and it's easy to take back and remove and change. So I'm just going to blend, and you can see how I can change and blend things a little bit back. So under here will be my darkest dark. And like I say, I can see more detail in the coloured, but I really want to keep it simple. For me, the most effective is keeping it simple. Can give you a surprising effect. But if you want to, what I can do is keep working and working and layering and wearing and get a really fine detailed piece of work. But for this, I only have half an hour to 40 minutes. I don't have the time to work in that detail. And it's a useful exercise to be able to challenge yourself on limited time. So I hope you can see how that's building up some darks. Just put a little bit of indication of a jumper in there. And I know it's got fill up under here, so wherever the shadow is I do need to add a bit more dark, and I think I'm just going to change to a bigger stump to give me a little bit more surface area to work with. So you can see I'm not overly worried about detail. What I want for this effect is those darks and lights and tones. I'm beginning to lose a little bit to see where I'm going, so I'm just going to give it a brush because there's still a bit of graphite on the page. Okay. Right. I feel I'm starting to fiddle a bit, so what I need is I need some more dark, just to start darkening off, because that will stop me overworking areas which is I've probably dealt with. So tap it and squeeze. Okay. So now I'm just going to add another layer of darker, and you can see again that's darkening, pushing it in there. Because the darker your darks are, the lighter your lights are. Graphite will still be subtle, and I'm also like to just change. You see on this bit I had different directions, but you'll see how that works later. So I'm using the direction. So that's still a bit swirly, so I can easily, a gentle touch, that's the key, a gentle sweep. And I think he needs a little bit more dark on his face just to give you a little bit more depth. So I'm just softening that. And my whites aren't overly white at the moment, but I like to just give myself an indication of where, picking it up, where the lights are, and start to give a little bit more shadow there. Under his nose needs a little bit of work, because that's often where the darker areas are, and under his nose here. And it's just these subtle touches which can bring it all together. So let's work on his eye And I do know on this side you can just see some little eyelashes. What I'm trying to show you is you can go quite fine. Just trying to give him a little bit of shape. Right, let's have a brush just to see. Whoops. Get some of the dust out. Okay, so you can see it's not overly dark, and I'm never going to get it overly dark at the moment. So let me try, go back in with this. Okay, so now I can just darken here a little bit more. So the thing with graphite I've found is a lot of it is layering, revisiting, revaluing, just looking at maybe that needs a little bit darker. Under here, looking out the window. I think I want to darken there. So just looking out this window, and you can see I'm finding it much easier to add the darker areas with one swipe of the chamois. Because what you do is you tend to keep brushing into it, and that is softening each time. Because it's so fine, the more each time you rub, it's just working its way in. So just have a few stripes on there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've lost a little bit of my light. I'm just going to do a final addition of light, and this time I'm going to just use my electric eraser. Like I have said, I'm going to use lots of different erasers because each one has different uses. So that one with the brush is great to give me quite controlled and good lines to start with. What I'm now going to do is really just put some much harsher, lost his fingers at the back, but that's easy, solved. So much harsher, stronger lines, and I can do that with the electric eraser. Just now bring out some of those, and I can soften these if they're a bit harsh. Okay, you can see now how that brings. I don't want to put too many really strong highlights in. I just want to see where the light is hitting. And you can see without using it, it's not quite as effective. It is a tool you have to learn to work with. And you can see it gives you a lot sharper, harsher lines. For me, that's a bit, so I'm going to go on to, this is a really nice little eraser, the Tombow eraser. I'm just cleaning it because I've got grubby hands, and you can use it now to finish, get some good lights, but a little bit more controlled than the electric. The electric tends to run away with you a little bit more. Take that off, and I know this cheek needs to bring back. So again, I'm reworking. Bring some more onto his cheek. Definitely there. You do tend to lose a little bit sometimes You can see how easy it is to bring it back. So I think it's a good time for a break, because we can come back and I can really just do those final finishes. What I need to do is think about, review, and then come back, and then just those last few highlights we can add, and I can show you how finishing off doesn't have to be complicated. It can sometimes just 1 or 2 lines. So join me in a minute.
Let us bring out the artist in you. If you'd like to learn how to paint or improve your painting, the SAA, Society for All Artists, is here to inform, encourage and inspire you every step of the way. When you become an SAA member, you get so many benefits, including the free bi-monthly newsletter Paint, packed with inspiring step-by-step projects, fascinating articles, and detailed information to get your creative juices flowing. Discounts on over 13,000 art products featured on the SAA website and in the Home Shop catalogue, with free order line and free delivery in the UK mainland. A devoted SAA team on hand to answer your questions and give you the confidence and motivation you need to start painting and develop at a pace that suits you. Plus, a free welcome pack filled with gifts and practical help to get you started, as well as the opportunity to make friends with like-minded people.
First thing to be a member is the inspiration from the magazines, to be able to purchase things at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, you get the reduction on all the materials, the advice you get.
I can shop from home.
It's a community.
It seemed like a very friendly sort of organisation.
If somebody's thinking of joining, don't spend too long thinking. Just join. They'll love it.
And we're back.
Hello and welcome back. So now I've had a little bit of time to stop and look at this, and I realise I'm not getting as many darks as I'd like, but because it's so fine, you just have to keep working at it and keep layering it. So what I'm going to do is continue putting some of these lights on, because that will help me just see where I maybe have lost a little bit of dark. So you can see here, just bringing back his fingers, or the highlights on his fingers. But I'm not putting too much on because I still want to keep some of that mid-tone. A little bit here and on his thumb. Now I know this is his lip. Lost some shape on his nose. Just bring here. Maybe a bit of highlight here. So I'm just looking at where the light is on the black and white photograph in conjunction with the detail I can see on the colour. So he's got nice chubby cheeks, so I just need to round that a little bit more. And you can see just a few highlights, what difference that makes into his ear, because I think that's catching a little bit of light, but not too much in there. So let me see. I use a different eraser. That will give me wider and softer lines. But you can, there, I can see, it just needs a bit. And all the time I'm just thinking about highlights, because these are the areas which will just start it to make it ping together. There we go. And you can, and that, I'm pleased with that. That really has made a bit of a difference. Okay. So it's his hair, just needs to show. Right, what I'm going to do is just work back on some darks. Just go back in here, bring out a little bit more detail. I'm being really careful not to overwork, put too much detail back in, because I really want to just keep it simple. I think that works effectively. So try swapping to this. So really, that's really nice there. That's just picking up some of that nice dark which I was looking for earlier. Right, darker. What happens is, as you get layers, it gets a little smooth, so you have to work a little bit harder to get your darker tones on here. But it works. It does work. You just have to have a little bit more patience and not rub into it as much as you have done with the lighter tones. I want to darken here. So I think it possibly does need another layer. And I'm going to go softer as opposed to using the chamois, which gives you a really soft, smooth line. I want to see if I can keep some of the darker. That's much better. You can see there, I've just added that extra darkness. Like I say, you can add charcoal. You can add, you know, a darker pencil on top if you want to bring out even more darkness. I'm just really challenging myself at the moment just to keep using the graphite powder exclusively. Just want to see what it can do. I need some darkness under here, picking up some of this loose areas here before I blow it everywhere. I think that's looking okay. I can still see a few areas I want to work on here. Soften. Because they're looking a bit too even. I know curls can be. Lost some light. On his fingers. There, we lost those at the back. And then I want to so I think that's worked quite well. But you can see how that all I've done is move some of the light and the dark areas out, and I think it's nice. I've not worked on this area, I've left it. And I think that works really nice. And that's just exclusively using graphite powder, which you can use with different mediums. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can shave your own pencils, and I hope you have a go and try and add to your graphite work. So join us soon for another live demonstration.